Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, everyone, as well, and welcome to METALCON Live. I'm Kaylin, the trade show and events specialist for all things METALCON. I'm so excited you can join us today. If you haven't, please check out metalcon.com to see all of our new METALCON Live content scheduled through early 2021. No matter what your role in metal construction is, we have you covered. With industry and economic content, technical content, content for designers and architects, and we're excited to announce that on Wednesday, December 2nd, we kick off the METALCON Business Academy, or the MBA for short, with building your 2021 one-page strategic plan presented with our program partner, Danny Kerr of Breakthrough Academy. If you attend all 6 sessions, you will earn your MBA diploma at METALCON 2021 in Tampa next October. Register for one course or for all of them. Registration for all is now open on metalcon.com. Today's session is brought to you by our partners at the MCA, the Metal Construction Association. If you are not a member, you may want to check them out. Members get access to technical reports, research data, and a vast network of peers and experts. Members also enjoy a discount on a METALCON booth. Jeff Irwin, the Director of Membership Development, is your contact, and his information is on this slide. We'll put this back up at the end of the session for everyone to take another look. 2 quick housekeeping notes before we get started. If you run into any technical issues, please message me, Kaylin, in the Zoom chat. I'll be happy to help if I can. Also, if you have questions for John, please send those in the Zoom chat as well. And if you have questions, comments, or concerns, or suggestions, please email me at kaylin@metalcon.com. And now I would like to introduce you all to John Trifonoff, the Vice President of East Coast Metal Systems. John, take it away.
Welcome, everybody. So what we're going to talk about is bring your MCM to life with a quality MCM Fabricator. We're going to talk about a few things in this presentation about understanding what MCM is, understanding the disciplines between the manufacturer, the fabricator, and the installer. So let's get into it and we'll talk a little bit about it. First thing, a little bit about myself. We're going to start here. And there we go. So everybody see the screen. Caitlin, we good?
We're good.
Go.
All right. So first thing, a little bit about myself. Again. So I'm Vice President for East Coast Metal Systems. We're a full service fabricator in architectural metal interior envelope systems. ECMS is one of the 8 premium fabricators in the country, and we're certified through the MCA. I started my metal fabrication career 30 years ago in the HVAC industry and joined ECMS in 1994. I've advanced steadily through this trade. I've seen all kind of field service from fabrication to management. So I've been in touched all aspects of this trade. I'm responsible for our facility here at East Coast Metal Systems. I hold a contractor's license in multiple states, have several fabrication certificates, and serve on numerous industry boards. I'm currently a member of the Metal Construction Association, serving on the marketing committee and the technical committees. Let's talk about what is MCM. So MCM is basically manufactured through a process of bonding 2 metal skins to a thermoplastic core. You got the aluminum face skin, the thermoplastic core in the center, and the aluminum back skin. It utilizes stainless steel, titanium, copper, zinc, and all other natural metals that we can bond to these thermoplastic cores. Hence, you get the word MCM, metal composite material. Allows for a lot of flexibility and durability in your product. Creates versatile architectural facades and is fully customizable to any project design. One of the great things about this material is the flatness that you can achieve. I mean, you can achieve flatness in a 5-foot by 16-foot long panel. It is just a great material to be able to achieve that type of flatness and that look, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. The advantages and applications of MCM. The composition of MCM makes it versatile and flexible while maintaining its durability. The advantages are limitless as it can be fully customizable to meet the project specification. If you look at a couple of the examples in the pictures there, this one here is an interior. It's perforated in a lot of radius, columns, column tie-ins, large flat panels. It gives you that really unique design, and also, you know, the way that you can mold and make this material really fit in the interiors is a special product. The one on the right here is basically a hotel lobby. Again, you don't think about this material in the interiors too much, but it is a great product to be able to fill this space. Down here is another radius section with perforated on the interior of a lobby to help with sound deadening and other performance standards that you can get from the product. And here is another one. The picture really doesn't do it justice. And a large interior, it has, these panels are 5 foot wide and 12 foot long. So you can get this really dead flat, large panel, and it really makes for a unique product. The applications MCM can provide desired aesthetics and functionality to virtually any market segment in construction and its requirements. And this is kind of the evolution of how you bring your MCM to life. We're going to start with the sheet manufacturers. Sheet manufacturers provide MCM and flat sheet by taking an extruded plastic core and bonding it to the metal skins on each side using continuous production process. They are responsible for the testing certifications of the MCM sheet. They continuously monitor and to ensure the quality of their product and performance. And they have their own testing standards that they adhere to. One of the things that they have is basically labeling. And they also, all these sheet manufacturers are third-party certified. So we want to look for the sheet manufacturers that have third-party certifications. And also, you know, they monitor and warrant the finish quality, bond integrity, and appearance. Their flatness is usually warranted through MCM manufacturer. And those are the sheet manufacturers. What's the Fabricators Discipline? The fabricators have the systems. They design, fabricate metal panels to meet defined projects. The project performance and requirements for the project are the responsibility of the fabricator. From water penetration to structural performance and the energy performance is the responsibility of the fabricator. Testing the cladding systems, including wind, water, air, fire, and other performance standards to local codes and building requirements. Those systems, we've spent a lot of money and time in developing our systems and getting those systems tested. A lot of us are third-party certified on that testing. So those are things that you want to look for a quality fabricator, is they have all the testing that is required to meet the standards of today. They create the shop drawings, provide engineering calculations showing the accuracy of the panels to the system for design of the project. So they're going to engineer their system to meet the project design. They're going to look at the drawings. They're going to look at the engineering required, the wind load, the load deflection for that job, and make sure that their system is engineered to adequately withstand those design criteria. They design, source, and fabricate structural components such as extruded aluminum, fasteners, clips required to fabricate MCM sheets into cladding panels and coordinate that installation. So they're looking at that design criteria, making sure they have enough clips, stiffeners to meet the wind loads, design loads of the job. System performance is usually warranted by the MCM fabricator. Again, the workmanship warranty. We have the systems, we're building the panels, that workmanship warranty falls under the fabricators. Here's kind of a couple typical route return systems. Now there's lots of other systems out there, but this is just kind of two generic route return systems that you'll see in the marketplace. The first one is the dry joint system. It utilizes formed pans mounted to aluminum extrusions, allows for 1/2 inch to 12-inch reveals, and joints are usually color matched to or complementary accent strips inside. Now these are built off of rain screen principles, because they're going to allow, there's several different versions, they're going to allow either water to get inside, drain out, or be pressurized out of the system. So the barrier or weather barrier is back at the substrate, and these systems are built on rain screen principles. The other typical system you see would be a wet joint system. And these systems are usually barrier systems. So they are sealed with silicone, routed, fabricated from bent pans again, and they usually have interlocking extrusions. But again, on these systems, the weather barrier is outboard and the panel system itself is the barrier. Next, we have the installers. The coordination of the material delivered to the job site from the MCM fabricator is the responsibility of the installer. They coordinate other trades for the installation of the fabricated MCM cladding systems. They provide materials and labors to produce required weather tightness and design systems. They execute the final field measurements and fabricate of panel components required to be produced on site. So they're responsible for field dimensioning, other site conditions, and relaying that information back to the fabricator so that they can build the panels correctly. Final project closeouts items are typically a joint effort between the MCM installer and the fabricator. And the workmanship warranty on the installer is usually, the install is usually warranted through the installer, typically warranted from the MCM installer. Some examples of what quality looks like. What you look for is, from the sheet manufacturer, we're looking for warranties. We're looking for warranties from the finish to the flatness. We're looking for third-party certifications from the sheet manufacturer. Part of that is labeling. Part of their labeling process is traceability. So they're able to trace all their product back through from source, all the individual components of that product, and it's in that label, and you can tell, are you buying an FR core product, or and what the product is, who the manufacturer was, and they can trace that, and you know that you got what you paid for. The fabricator, it's a shop fabricated process. So those panels are made in the shop. They're made under controlled conditions. They're designed to meet the design criteria for the project. They're using tested systems that we put money into, and they're third-party certified on those systems. They're carrying a warranty on that system for workmanship, and they have certifications like the Premium Certified Fabricator. The Premium Certified Fabricator is something you will look for in your fabricator, in your project, because you're going to get quality at that point. You're going to get a product that the fabricator is going to stand behind and a third-party certified. In conclusion, basically what we want to do is understand the product, the MCM, and utilization of material. It's a great material, exterior, interior. You can generate large flat panels from this. You can accommodate all kind of basic designs. You can incorporate radius panels, perforated panels, columns. You can really get unique with the design criteria. Making sure that you've got a quality fabricator that can engineer those systems to meet those design criteria. The distinction between the responsibilities of parties involved, if you look at older specs where you have a rent-a-bond system in them, just as a one that comes off my mind, I looked at a spec not too long ago where it said rent-a-bond system. Well, rent-a-bond doesn't really make a system, so you got to understand the disciplines in the process. So you have the sheet manufacturers that will generate the sheet. We have and then you'll have the fabricator who will generate the system, generate the panels. And we have the installer who will install those panels. A lot of times too, you'll have the manufacturer of the panels are the installer. So there is that relationship as well. Understanding what to look for when selecting quality team on your project. And that's that premium fabricator. That's those things like third-party certifications. Those are things that are important to have in that team, and that trust that that you're going to get that product. You're going to get an engineered product that's going to meet or exceed your design criteria for the job. Bringing your MCM to life requires quality fabricator and a quality team. You marry up a lot of different aspects in this process, and you want to make sure you have people that understand the process and have the third-party certifications to assure that you're getting a quality product on your job. So we have question and answer, but I wanted to bring up a couple things too. So is there any questions that you've seen, Kayla, on the chat?
Yes, I do have at least one question so far. And that first question is coming from Barry Wood. And the question is, how heavy do these systems get? You mentioned 12 feet long. Are there any handling issues?
There are. You do get some heavier panels. It's basically 1.5 pounds per square foot. So you can imagine, a larger panel, say a 16-foot wide panel, you're either going to have a large basket that's going to install those, or you're going to have 2 baskets or 2 crews installing those. But you're covering a huge amount of square footage at the same time. So it's all relative, really. But yes, they're lightweight compared to something else of similar size, if that makes sense. But yeah, for panels that cover that size square footage, they're relatively light. A 4-foot by 10-foot panel can be handled by a 2-man crew. Do we have any other questions, Kelly?
Yes, I do have at least one more. Any suggestions on how to handle perimeter extrusions and stiffeners and attachment clips, other engineering aspects?
So all of our systems are designed to a criteria. So if you have a certain criteria on a job, you're going to look at the perimeter extrusion, you're going to look at the load, and you're going to add the stiffeners to meet the deflection criteria. So sometimes you might have a 4-foot by 10-foot panel with stiffeners every 3 foot. Sometimes you might have stiffeners every 2 feet, depending on the deflection and the load criteria. Sometimes you may have clips that run every 16 inches on center with 2 foot. Sometimes you might have them a little wider, depending on the load criteria and the substrate. So there's variables in there. That's why it's so important to have a fabricator that has tested systems to make sure that you're meeting that design criteria for the project, and that you can meet the load performance for the substrate and the project itself, because every project's different. So not all of them are, different substrates, different Z-girts, different things that are going to determine what that load is and what that load is on the system, so to make sure that you can meet that criteria. If we have the testing data behind the fabricator and the system, you can extrapolate what that load is.
Interesting. So I do have a few more questions for you.
Sure.
How do fabricators handle radii? I know the panel can be roll formed, but what about the extrusions to get installed in the finished pan?
So there's a couple different variations of that depending on the system. Remember we talked about there was several different types of systems. One of them, we can radius the extrusions to a certain amount. So we have tooling that will allow us to stretch the extrusions and allow us to radius those extrusions to match the profiles. Some of the extrusions are basically notched to allow for the curve cut to allow for the radius to form, depending on what type of system it is. So those are some variables that we use.
Interesting. The next question is there thermal bridging for this system?
There is, and depending on the design. So sometimes you'll see basically the plastic shims that will go into it to allow for a thermal break on the system itself. So you'll see some of those type applications, but usually it's a design criteria, depending on where the project is.
Interesting. How important is it to vet the installers you are supplying?
Very important. One of the things that we do here is our panels are our name, correct? So we want to make sure that we're standing behind the product in our installer. So if we're selling to a third-party installer, we're making sure that they go through our training process, and we have our training process, and I know a lot of the other fabricators have the same, where they go through a step-by-step training process to understand how the components of the system work, how those components go on a wall, and then making sure that they're installing that product correctly in the field. So that's very important, is to have that certification that you've been through training program. Also have that little third party certified that, okay, I've verified in the field that my installer is installing this correctly.
Good to know. And how are stiffeners usually attached or bonded? How are perimeter extrusions usually attached or bonded?
So the perimeter extrusions are usually mechanically fastened to the panel system itself, typically. We do have some systems out there that are two-sided tape, but majority of the systems are mechanically fast as far as a perimeter extrusion. The stiffeners, however, we've gone through an evolution of stiffeners. We've learned a lot over the years on basically read through, where you have the stiffeners are too tight to the panel, and it shows a little bit of a ripple or bleed through on the panel. Well, technology and evolution, we've been able to cure a lot of that. And they're basically a two-sided tape, they're VHB tape to the panel system, then attached to the perimeter extrusion. So that perimeter extrusion locks into the stiffener in some fashion, so that it really, stiffens the panels up, and it makes it one unit load when you add the stiffeners to the outside perimeter.
Okay. What are the max sheet sizes for aluminum, steel, and availability of other metals?
It really depends on the manufacturer. So if you get into zincs, coppers, you're going to get into European sizes. So they're going to be a little narrower than the standard domestic sizes. You're going to deal with meter wide coils versus standard sizes in the US would be 48-inch coil, 52-inch coil, and 62-inch coil on the US sizes. Specialty metals are going to be something like copper and zinc. You're not going to get in those wide lengths. So you got to watch those. Some of the manufacturers have different coil widths on the aluminum side. So with aluminum, you can get different coil widths. So you can get all the way up to, in the States, a 62-inch wide coil. I've seen some European coils where they're a little bit wider, but typically in the States, the widest you can get is 62. And as far as the length, we can have the manufacturers cut those sheets to really whatever length we need them to, but we try to stay right around 16 feet as a max size, just for handling and workability, shipping. It usually is a max size for the length of the panel.
Okay, good to know. And how long have you been certified, and what did you need to change?
So we've been certified for probably 15 years. What we did to really jumpstart us into the certification is we had to get our Florida product approval. So we had to basically, at that point, really dive into our processes. We had to dive into the process where you had to identify your QC manual, you had to identify your process, and you had the traceability. So you had the traceability of all your product back to where it was developed. So once we did that, we was like, okay, now let's talk about how do we get third party certified through the MCA. So we contacted the MCA, we got involved with the MCA and said, okay, we're doing this. Why don't we become a premium member of the MCA and have that validation from the MCA that, you're a quality manufacturer and you can do these things. So there's an application process to become a quality fabricator. Once you apply, you'll get that application, and you go through and you check the boxes. Okay, we're doing this, we're doing that. We have this volume, we have these vendor partners, and you get validated from those vendor partners that you are doing what you say you do, and the application goes through and gets voted on, and you become a member. So that's really what we had to change, was just our process. We had to make sure to identify our process, have the QC manual, make sure that the guys are following the QC manual, and identify our traceability, and then do the application.
Very interesting. So this is my the last question I currently have. If there are any more questions, please feel free to send that over in the chat. And this question is it the fabricator's responsibility to police NFPA 285 compliance? For example, since they own the system design and performance, if they see design that violates their testing, will they flag it?
I say yes. It's our responsibility to make sure that those components, we own the system, right? So if our system, or if we know our system isn't going to comply with NFPA 285, then we need to address it with the designer and make sure that there is a compliance factor to it. So there's all the EJ reports out there where we can identify the components to make sure that all the components will pass the NFPA 285. So basically, you just got to line up the EJs, make sure that we have all those components in the wall that have been tested, so that we're we're assured ourselves that the system will pass. And again, it's common sense. If this opponent and that opponent all pass the NFPA 285, we know we can trust that those can go into our wall assembly and make sure that our system is going to perform on it as well.
Nice. Next question is, are project-specific calculations usually submitted, or do you usually rely on the prior lab testing and certifications?
A little of both. Majority of the projects today are going there. They want the third-party calculations. We have on some of our smaller projects, we'll just go with the lab calculations. We have a basic standard. So we have a standard L/60 industry standard load deflection that we've been tested to. We have a certain wind pressure that we've tested to. So we know what it'll perform up to a certain amount under normal conditions in 90% of the applications on smaller projects. When we get into the larger projects with large building deflection, large wind zones, then we want to make sure that we're looking at the engineering record, making sure that we're meeting the load compliance of the building itself. And then those are usually third-party engineered, to where we're looking at all aspects of the building.
Interesting. And how do you handle the NFPA? Because in a lot of cases, the spec calls out an assembly, not a component spec.
Again, it's a tough call. You see that a lot, and usually we handle it through EJs, or engineering judgments. EJs are engineering judgments where they have a third-party engineer like Priest and Associates, where they have all the components of the system already tested, and they have basically data on multiple systems that have been tested and all the components in those systems, and making sure they compile those, write one report certifying that all those systems passed.
Wonderful. So I don't have any additional questions here.
Okay. Lastly, I think one thing, with the MCA is a great resource for education, right? Get on the website, get involved, sign up, do all the social media stuff, follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you'll see our posts, and spread the word. We're always looking for, more people to get involved with the MCA, more people to get part of the Fabricator program. We really want to see more people get involved with that, because it really certifies you, and it really gives you the clout when you go in and talk to somebody about third-party certification. I have this, and this is something that you can use to talk to and market and distinguish yourself from somebody else on a job that's not really doing what they need to be doing in undercutting those jobs. For an education standpoint, the MCA is great. Through the Alliance, through the MCM Alliance, we've been able to put a couple education pieces out there. One of them that's out there right now is individual parts bring a greater whole, is basically a learning or an education piece. If you need credits and you need some education from MCM, from the MCM Alliance, look for that. Then also we're going to be coming out with another program to give you credits through Arch Record in December, and it's going to be understanding MCM and installation and systems. So a little bit more further, deeper dive into this topic. This topic was just, I know it was a little short, but it was just something that we were going to talk about at METALCON and really try to promote the next evolution of our educational piece, which is coming out here in December.
Very interesting. Well, do you have anything else for us, John?
No, I think that's it. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for the questions, really good questions. I want to wish everybody happy holidays.
Absolutely. So thanks everyone again for joining us. Please mark your calendars for December 2nd, Wednesday, December 2nd, for the next METALCON Live. And again, as a very wonderful thank you to the MCA for sponsoring and co-presenting this presentation with us. Again, Jeff Irwin's information is located on your screen.